program. Welcome to the Pro Wrestling Report television edition. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside the man they call Frank Meathead.
Meathead. As we're all showing off our shoes today, apparently.
And Frank Cosentino the Cos. Welcome back, boys, to another edition of the Pro Wrestling Report on television. Pro Wrestling Report, which dominates the television airwaves all over the world, and also the radio on 540 ESPN, and even on the internet at pwrshow.com. Gotta find some other. Maybe we should.
And in the Chicken Shack.
Service.
And in the Chicken Shack
and
as well.
And the chat room. And the forum.
And the Chicken Shack.
Isn't that some type of special dancing facility?
That's the.
That's the Broad Stop.
No, not the Broad Stop.
Hillary Clinton was there. Remember her?
The Chicken Shack is from Dolly Parton and Burt Reynolds, the best little whorehouse in Texas.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report, and let's get right to it and talk about the big news of the week, which is Ric Flair gone from World Wrestling Entertainment. We broke the story, if you will, along with several other sources on Sunday night's version of the PWR on 540 ESPN. Information was coming in at that time. It was late-breaking news. We have more details now to release for you, including an actual statement from Ric Flair to the Pro Wrestling Report. Here's what we know right now. The WWE had Ric Flair under a contract for an unknown amount of time. Ric Flair was not being permitted to work independent shows or do other things wrestling related while under that WWE contract. Ric Flair missing out on several opportunities to make money personally, up to $10,000 per event, some say for at least 30 or 40 events. Missing out on those opportunities because WWE simply would not let him. As we talked about this past week on the PWR radio edition on 540 ESPN, it seems as if WWE may have been able to benefit from those appearances had they let him appear. Now, the question is, Ric Flair making a pretty drastic decision to ask for and be granted his release from World Wrestling Entertainment as a result of his disagreement with this particular policy in World Wrestling Entertainment. Now, Frank and Meathead, your thoughts on the departure of a man who just a few months ago was sent off in very high regard by WWE as part of his retirement. Does this tarnish that image?
No, not at all. Eventually, that he was either going to go off TV, his contract was going to end, and he'd have to make some type of career decision. He's in his mid-50s, and either you stay in WWE.
I'd say late.
Mid to late 50s, upper 50s. So you have to make a decision what you're going to do with your career. Maybe WWE had a different role for him as far as being off-camera promoting, or just something else. Here's an opportunity now where he's a free agent. He can go do what he pleases, using his name, using what he has earned his last 30-some years in the business, and maybe make, money other ways. From what I gathered, he's pretty smart that way as far as making those career decisions financially. So
he did also close his personal finance business in Charlotte, North Carolina, a venture that he started a while back. That is closed up. So his only revenue stream right now is what he has tucked away, perhaps, and what he can generate nowadays. And why wouldn't he want to go on the road?
Yeah, the name Ric Flair is going to make cash. Ric Flair equals cash. Now, when Damian said upwards of $10,000 per appearance, I've actually heard a little bit higher for a personal appearance that was maybe being talked about here in the area, a little bit higher. Ric Flair, you know what? The fact that he now is not obligated to WWE and he's not, withheld.
He's free at last.
Free at last, free at last. Good God almighty, I'm free at last.
I'm not sure you can do that.
I can do that. I'm blacker than you. Ric Flair can actually go out and make money. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say what you are waiting for us to say. Ric Flair can go to TNA if he chooses to go to TNA. Is Ric Flair going to go to TNA? Ric Flair is not going to go to TNA.
But there's one thing that may prevent that from happening big time, which is...
No compete clause.
Exactly. Or a deal similar to what Brock Lesnar was granted when he was released, which was he couldn't appear on competing wrestling television for 10 years. Ric Flair, I don't believe, has any intention.
Let him wrestle in the mask.
Speculation is rampant that he will indeed show up in TNA because now anytime anybody leaves WWE, the expectation is they're going to show up in TNA.
Wrestle in a mask.
It's obvious. It's posturing by TNA. Anytime a WWE wrestler is released,
of
TNA,
any name,
you're correct. They're going to leak it out. Is he coming to TNA? they're going to get the internet people out there just to get the TNA name out there.
And Ric Flair could be on the show.
Right, he could be facing Sting, and all that, and it's all out there already.
Ooh,
But
that was the last match he had on Nitro, remember?
Correct.
Remember Nitro?
And the best thing about it,
program?
the best thing about it was Ric Flair wrestled in a shirt.
Yeah.
Well, because he later would say at the time he knew he couldn't get out there with his physique and the conditioning. He was in the worst shape of his life, I think he said at that point in his career.
But you're right. Depends when he signed that contract. If there is a no-compete clause for a certain amount of time, again, he's a smart guy. He's
Wrestle in a mask.
He'll. There's some way.
Because that worked out so well last time.
That out.
What was he, the
All
Dark
contracts can be worked
Scorpion?
out.
I believe he was. But Ric Flair, John Milan was able to do the weather in a paper bag. That's a local joke here. I'm sorry. It's a weatherman that had no compete clause.
Let me read, as I took a minute for me to find it here, let me read the statement that we got from Ric Flair's representative, Elaine Gillespie. And I quote from Ric Flair, "WWE and I parted on the best of terms. This gives me the chance to pursue new opportunities, corporate speaking engagements, product sponsorships, autograph shows for my loyal fans who made me what I am today, and film and television roles. My agent and I are very excited about what the future holds." So that's direct from the horse's mouth to PWR from Ric Flair.
Mouth.
Ooh, very good.
I
Both
beat
of
you.
at the same time.
Just a second.
Must be because I'm in the middle now. I can channel good thoughts to both of you.
Wrong.
It's enough of this brain to go around. So given that official statement from Ric Flair, it says that some of the things we were just speculating he may not be able to do, perhaps he can. We just got news that Steve Austin's been signed to another film company to do a film that is not affiliated with WWE films. So, these contracts, folks, remember, we've seen some of them. We've not seen all of them, which means every contract is different, and we can always speculate based off of generally what's in contracts, what
Unless
could
you're
be in
the
a particular
agent,
performer's
the
contract.
talent, or the company that signed it.
And because he's Ric Flair, 2 years from now, if there's something that's up and Vince McMahon is still running the show, or for the McMahons could be running the show. Hey, Rick, you want a one-time fee? We're in your hometown. We need a little bump in attendance for that night. Let's pump. He'll do it.
Well, and how about when he came back looking for the street fight a month after his retirement?
Right.
Yeah.
Or 2 months after his retirement.
Just they'll do whatever.
Yeah,
of
and
course,
that's
money
not out of
talks.
the question. That's definitely not out of the question. Just because he's out of a contract with WWE doesn't mean he won't be on a pay-per-appearance deal.
That's an obvious another revenue stream for him.
But also that could happen in TNA.
He
Could
gets
happen
inducted
in
into the Hall
UFC.
of Fame. He gets a send-off greater than any other that has ever been done. He gets the respect of the fans. He gets the respect of the performers within WWE. What reason does Ric Flair have to go to TNA?
Zero.
He's not bitter.
They're not
going to
have
pay him what he needs.
the money. They're not going to
It's
have
just,
the money.
well, they could, though. Remember, they've got
It would
solid
have to-
financial backing.
It would have to be a crazy amount of money.
I mean, not
and he would
LeBron
take it.
James playing overseas money.
But what's the hook for Flair? Well, he's got nothing else to prove. What, being TNA World Champion? Is that on his list?
Would it
No.
be- I don't think it'd be in a wrestling capacity. I think it would just be,
A talking
you're going to
capacity.
give me how much money to do 6 appearances? You got it.
He'd be doing the Stairmaster in the background.
Here's the question. Ric Flair's retired. He retired from in-ring activity, obviously. But we saw, and we have seen, at least with the evolution in the beginning of it, that Ric Flair could be a great mouthpiece for younger talent or
Absolutely.
wrestlers. He could be a great manager. If managers were important anymore in professional
Joe
wrestling.
Dillon.
How many managers are there out there?
Real managers?
Yeah.
Who?
I don't think
There
there
are
are
none.
any.
There aren't any.
There's Raja
think-
Singh.
That's not a manager. He's an interpreter.
That is true.
I think Armando was like one of the last.
We go from the great days of Paul Heyman, Bobby the Brain Heenan, James E.
lost
Cornette,
art.
Jimmy the Mouth of the South, Hart,
Mr.
Fuji, Gary Hart. We go from these.
Precious Paul, Jimmy the Mouth of the South. You got, even the women.
Guess you missed
Elizabeth.
them the first time.
Yeah, Elizabeth. Sonny. I mean.
The SoCal Valet manager? No, she's a
No,
valet.
she is not. She's a valet. And that's technically what.
James Mitchell released Scott DeBoer.
That's technically what Sonny was. She made the crossover.
Now, she was on this show, right?
She was on this show, her and that butt. She kind of helped make the crossover from manager into valet because she was a manager, but she also opened up the door. Sable was the next Sonny. All the girls that are coming out are the next Sable. She was the crossover. Because she had the looks to be the valet. And
I remember what I said in this edition of the Pro Wrestling Report at 540 ESPN.
Can you drop that one more time?
I was put on this planet, I believe, to be a professional wrestling manager.
Possibly.
One day, you never know.
Possibly. Slick doesn't work anymore. Maybe you could take his spot.
Again, he goes back to the race card.
I
guess you're a maverick, too, huh?
Bro. Never lie to your friends.
You know, one of the greatest managerial beatdowns, there were two. There was when the Warrior got his hands on Bobby Heenan in a steel cage. I don't remember the event, but he kicked the living daylights out of Bobby the Brain Heenan. And there was also the Alice Cooper, Jake the Snake beatdown of Slick at WrestleMania 3. Because it made no sense, but it was so great. And at that time, it was still heinous when you attacked a manager.
Why was Alice Cooper beating on him?
Oh, there were three, actually. There was Heyman versus James E. Cornette, when Cornette carried around the jacket when he got bloodied by the phone.
Yeah.
For what seemed like years, he carried around that bloody jacket, and they had a series of matches and whatnot. But
see, that's when you could take an angle and stretch it out. For those of you that are still watching AWA's ESPN Classic matches, it's the same thing over and over every week. Still loving Paul Lee Dangerously's promos. DDP's promos when they were on, listening to Larry Zbyszko, listening to Kurt Hennig. Amazing, amazing promos.
It's good stuff. Those were the days.
Now
someone
knew where you were then. Are you working the board there, William?
There's the comparison we're looking for. And I've been asked this recently much more than
how we go off on tangents?
past. No. Old school wrestling, whether it be wrestling from, and there's, I would say, several different eras. There's your 50s and 60s wrestling. There's your 70s wrestling. Your 50s and 60s was classic mat wrestling with a little bit of pageantry. Your 70s where a lot of the pageantry came in, and a lot of the territories got huger. Then you've got the 80s, which was all about rock and roll and wrestling and
to
cartoon
the early 90s.
Exactly. Then you've got the late 90s and into now, essentially, where wrestling is all about attitude and realism and not about make-believe.
Quick pace.
Some ask, what was the greatest era of professional wrestling? And it's difficult to answer that because if you look at a DVD like Ric Flair's latest DVD from WWE,
and if you're not a
you
manager,
see the promos that he cut. You see the promos that all of the Horsemen cut. You see the Dusty Rhodes promos. You see the way people talk about the way wrestling was. You have to appreciate the difference between then and now. Keep in mind, then Ric Flair could go from Florida to North Carolina to New York to Minneapolis to Las Vegas and wrestle and be different in each of those markets. Because all you had were the trade magazines, Pro Wrestling Illustrated and whatnot, that would come around at the time. Now you got this damn internet ruining things. You've got so much more of a wrestling infrastructure, if you will, where you don't have that surprise factor. You don't have that wow factor anymore. And when you do, it's pretty good, but it's not as good as it used to be. Remember when Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior returned at WrestleMania 8 in 1992, which I think was one of the last great things before the internet ruined wrestling? Yeah, nobody saw that coming.
Speaking of wow, and hopefully this will get us back on track again.
We're on track.
Did I ever tell you that I was planning on getting a tattoo? 2 W's right on each cheek. A W on each cheek, and I'm going to get a tattoo that says wow. A W here and a W there. Are we back on track?
I also think cable TV. Once cable TV
Frank,
really
I tried
took
to
off.
throw it so bad that he would have to go into his notes again. That's what I tried.
That's all right.
W-O-W.
I think it's actually a good topic for another time.
One of the special edition shows?
I mean...
Come on.
Cable TV.
I got to run that by the marketing group now.
Before and after cable TV and how wrestling has changed. I think cable TV is even more important than the internet. We could debate that.
Ric Flair gone from WWE. I wouldn't see this split to be a long-term thing. And again, I would expect that WWE and Ric Flair, as they are on good terms, would work with each other when it was favorable to both of them. Will Ric Flair go to TNA? I will go on record right now, and you can read my lips. Ric Flair will not go to TNA wrestling.
Kind of like you said Hogan would never go back to WWE.
I never said read my lips. That's the kicker. Remember the first George W? Now, that's not a knock on TNA, by the way. There's nothing wrong with TNA. It's just I can't find in my mind any reason for Ric Flair to go to TNA.
They'd have to pay a lot of money.
Like I said, it's not LeBron playing overseas money, but...
All right.
WWE Raw from this past week, it was Mike Adamle's first night. It was an Adamle original, I guess. Boys, I want to get your thoughts on Mike Adamle's first night of the general manager of being the general manager of Monday Night Raw. And let me go ahead and hold my notes in my hand as you talk about this.
Mike Adamle was given an opportunity by myself and hopefully everyone else that was watching. Now, the fact that they crammed the phrase an Adamle original down our throats, didn't like so much. I did like the fact that he came out and portrayed a business-type individual.
He had notes, meathead,
Yes.
which he referred to many a time.
That's okay.
Mid-sentence.
That's okay.
Get cue cards. Get a flat panel off stage.
No.
Something.
It's gimmick.
It's not gimmick.
It's gimmick.
No, it's not gimmick. At the times in which he referred to it, fine.
It's gimmick. You know what? I don't like it so far, but I haven't thrown in the towel yet. I don't like it, but it can get better.
Frank?
You see, I was thinking the same thing. Why? What is it? The notes thing is going to drive me crazy. However, he wants, it's exactly what they're looking for. Oh, it's a guy that has notes. Oh, yeah? You're talking about Mike Adamle. It's the Adamle original. It's getting into your brain. He's going to bring out the notes next week. He's going to say a thing. Looking at my notes. People are going to talk to him. People are going to watch. They're going to wait for that ultimate surprise, or we just start getting used to it. I don't like it yet, but I know where they're going with it. It's brilliant marketing at this moment. We'll see if it's got legs, but it could work because people are going to talk about it, and it's hard to swallow because you're like, no, you can do a hell of a lot better than that, but then you're watching because he's going to do it again. He's going to mention it again. Here are my notes. Got to look at my notes. You know, I'm like, at this moment, I don't like it, but I see what they're doing with it, and
Word for word,
different.
Frank, you and I are right on key.
It's different.
No, Frank disagrees. You agree. Frank doesn't like it. You like it at this point.
And I said, I don't like it, but I haven't thrown in the towel, is what I just
He
said.
had notes. I was done at that point. And the notes weren't part of the gimmick. The notes were not put out there. He literally had to refer to those notes during the promo to make sure he was on track. Whether it falls into the gimmick or whatever.
I think it is part of the gimmick.
Think about his commentary.
But
He
it's
doesn't
both.
know the names of the people in the matches. He doesn't know.
I called him Jeff Harvey.
He doesn't know. And he had to look at his notes for that. Oh, almost. No, I thought he was going to. I called him, but he didn't. He doesn't even, if you look at his commentary where he had notes in front of him as well, he couldn't get that right.
Good job, Mark.
Then,
Now, see, this is where you got to give it.
no, don't you dare. He had notes because he would have jacked it up royally if he did not have notes.
It all depends. If he keeps this up in the next 2 to 3 weeks, then you know that he's using it for 2 reasons. 1, because he needs it, and 2, because if he does this for the next couple of weeks, then you know he needs it and it's part of the gimmick. If it stops, that means this guy's just a complete buffoon. He's not ready for this at all, and they need to stop it immediately. But we'll see how it's done. I'm actually now looking forward to see if he's going to do that same
I'm interested
thing.
in seeing it. I want to see what happens next.
What has happened here? I should be saying the stuff you two are saying.
Well, some of us are Mark and some aren't.
I thought I was the mark.
You are. And you bought into it.
Oh, don't you?
You bought into it.
It's me, Austin. It was me all along. You all bought it. You all bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. You all bought it. This is when JR said, "Oh, son of a bitch." It's one of my favorite wrestling clips.
That is a sound drop that has crossed time and space. Yeah. A man that we listen to, Mr. Steven Zabin, for those of you that watch in the D.C. area. Zabel loves that drop. Him and Soli, and not Soli, I'm sorry.
Gordon Soley? Well,
No.
God bless his soul. Let's continue along this path. A lot of fans out in the internet world loved Adamle and think that this is really going to be a good spot for him.
It's all about that little number they call ratings.
I just hope he isn't involved in in-ring physical action.
I agree with you
Well, he's
there.
got to take a bump eventually.
Eventually, but not now.
Through a table?
Something like that.
CM Punk versus JBL versus Jericho. Actually, Jericho and JBL versus CM Punk. Guys, what a surprising outcome to that match, and what a surprising wrestling match that was.
What
as I
a
thought it was
confusing
solid.
setup.
It was confusing. It was confusing, and enough with these time limit things. We know it's going to end at the very end. They don't need to have a time limit.
You know that when it was 10 seconds down, it didn't seem like they really had a
Well,
there
that's
was no
what I'm
finish
like, holy
scenario.
cow, finish this up.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen. And you could tell the ref said something like, hey, JBL, this way.
Hey, you
this
got
way,
10.
This way.
Yeah.
Will you stop ruining the magic?
But it was surprising. A little confusing, you're right, but it was
The
surprising.
setup was confusing because if it's a handicap match, isn't it supposed to be a tag match, 2-on-1? where they're both.
Oh, they can be configured anyway. The Adamle, it was an Adamle original.
Which means just do whatever works.
Well, it's an Adamle original.
It's original.
You're the one who's giving them a chance.
You gotta get.
I haven't given up.
You got a good pizza chance.
The Wrestling God is in the main event at SummerSlam. You said it wouldn't happen, didn't you? Remember
I
that?
did not.
We'll go ahead and act like
Check
that's
the
what you said.
archives. Oh, son of a...
JBL, CM Punk, Triple H, Khali on top of that card. This says the hints of SummerSlam 95.
Ooh,
That was Mabel versus Diesel, I believe, was the main event.
Ooh. Big Daddy V.
Great Khali. That's risky. But,
It's risky because the Great Khali can't move very well.
right.
But
But
you know what? It's okay.
I'm willing to give it a
It
shot.
shouldn't be at the top of the card.
No, that will not be.
WWE's having a bit of a shakeup as it pertains to their announced teams. Rumor has it Mick Foley, unhappy with WWE, may be looking to get out. No matter what, rumor is that his contract expires in the fall anyways. So we may see Mick Foley taking some time away from WWE, especially in his broadcast role on SmackDown. You will see this Friday night, or you did see this evening, that Taz replaced Mick Foley, at least for this week, on SmackDown, while Matt Stryker replaced Taz on ECW and did a very good job.
Stryker was what was expected. Stryker, very well versed.
He is a wrestling nerd.
A high school teacher. You know, his vernacular is above par.
Not all of them are. I've met some teachers I'm very surprised are able to teach. I've met some also phenomenal teachers, by the way.
Ding. Sorry, wrong show.
Yeah. I was refreshed.
I was trained. Did you see that? Like a trained monkey.
What impressed me most about Stryker was when he referred to Robbinsdale, Minnesota.
Yeah.
As soon as he said it,
yep,
you thought
knew.
Rick
Mr.
Rude.
Henning.
No, Rick Rude. I
thought-
think Robbinsdale.
no,
I think Rick Rude.
Oh, no. I've been watching AWA Classics because I keep saying Robbinsdale.
Hey,
so I
hey.
thought Kurt Hennig.
Hennig.
Depends
Drop
on which
the N when
federation. Depends on which federation.
Let's talk about the draft. You announced the results of your
Yes.
mock pay-per-view, Ready to Stumble, on the PWR on ESPN Radio this past Sunday night. Let's go ahead and refresh the fans' memory as to what the victors were and the title holders now for your WCW. Which, for those of you who don't remember at home, WCW
He
is
keeps
a
setting me up to
defunct
talk,
wrestling
and he keeps
organization
crapping on me.
that went out of business in 2001.
And go. William Regal is the new hardcore champion in WCW. He won a Falls Count Anywhere match against 5 other combatants. The new tag team champions in the WCW are the Hardy Boys with a Z. The women's champion going into the match and coming out of the match is the one that dropped the WWE belt right in the garbage.
That's fine. She
I'm
just
thinking
won't get her
Arby's.
deposit
I'm
back.
thinking roast beef. I'm thinking Mickey James. And I have landed my shot, Frank. My shot has landed.
Yeah.
Roast beef sign in the crowd at Saturday night's main event. Mickey James.
And
roast
Raw.
beef. And Raw, too?
Well, it's the same night, same event.
Wow. Gone. Anyways.
You know, we do have to put a fan challenge out there for a Raw coming to Chicago on August 18th.
I need to see Mickey James roast beef pictures. Not the real
They'll
one.
take those away.
Shelton Benjamin is the new Cruiserweight champion in an Ultimate X match. And for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship in the closest voting in the history of WCW, which is one pay-per-view, by one vote,
Or one booker named Kevin Nash.
your winner and new WCW champion, Mr. Kennedy!
Now you wait.
Kennedy!
That leads me to a question for our moderator from the draft, Frank.
Oh, by the way,
Frank, we're on
Nigel
pause.
McGuinness,
Pause.
excuse me.
Double bars.
Nigel McGuinness is now the new #1 contender for the U.S. Heavyweight Championship. Matt Hardy is the current U.S. champion. Unpause.
Yes.
As it pertains to our draft rosters,
Yes.
released superstars and injured superstars, are they available for use during these monthly events? If they are in their respective organizations, either injured or have been released, if released, are they dropped from the roster? Or if injured, are they not available until they are back from injury?
Well, if you're going to get technical,
If I may.
Nope.
Because
Frank's
if
the mod.
it involves fantasy, and I think this is going to lean
That's-
towards you.
that's-
I think this is actually going to lean towards you. If we're treating this like a fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball, fantasy football type league, if the actual athlete is either injured or not being used. Therefore, stats won't count. Therefore, would not be available. If that's the way you're going.
Because you guys have already made a trade, that is the way that I am looking at it.
What's the trade got to do with?
Well, because
Let him talk. Will you let him finish? I've been sitting here all respectful for the last 27
I was
minutes.
trying to help you.
Because you brought in the fantasy aspect
Sure.
of it, there are trades in fantasy, so I'm trying to pull it all together into one. So yes, I am treating it as a kind of like fantasy football or fantasy baseball. I'm going that route. So if they're injured, can they be used?
That's the question. What's the answer?
Well, no.
There went Frank's brain.
Then
Just
Frank
went-
said no. So injured superstars are dropped from the roster. They're on the injured reserve list, riding the pine, not playing.
That's correct. That would be my ruling.
Correct.
And released superstars, do they become no longer available? Because the conditions of the draft were that we grabbed all
Conditions?
available. We grabbed
no,
all
they're not
available
available.
superstars.
Once
They're
you're
not available.
released,
All
they're
right.
not available.
So what that means is your world champion has a dislocated shoulder.
Okay. When did he?
Woo!
When did he dislocate?
Woo! Monday night in Macon, Georgia.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Hey.
So what are you going to do with that world title?
I'm going to.
Because there's a 30-day
because
compete
he
clause.
doesn't have yet another show to prove that he's hurt.
He's hurt. You got to... I'm not
I'm
going to argue with you. No, that's
Because
fine.
you know what?
That's fine.
Petey
Well,
Williams
he's a,
was hurt, and you said, he's not going to wrestle. He kept
Frank hadn't
showing
made
up.
the calling.
He kept showing
Frank
up.
hadn't made the call.
He kept showing up every week. He can be hurt and still show up to the show.
He's got to defend the title every 30 days because we have stipulated that on each of our
Correct.
pay-per-view shows the titles must be defended.
And when the pay-per-view is...
So you're going to have an injured man remain...
Listen,
Okay.
when the pay-per-view is announced, therefore he would have to be healthy and able to participate at that moment. So he can be hurt for the next 29 days, as long as he is able to participate. And by participation, that means showing up on TV.
I agree with
That's
that.
fine.
I agree with that.
Fine. As long as the rules
Fair
have been
for both?
established.
Fair for both?
Fair for both. Now it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to hear the next lineup of my fantasy
He
draft.
doesn't even have a women's champion. He doesn't even have the belt. I have it.
Pay-per-view. That is going to be
Called no
entitled Acceleration. We started with Foundation. That was laid. We declared the champions. And now
Nobody
we shall
gets laid. They don't even
accelerate.
have a women's champion.
We shall accelerate. And here's how we will do so. I will focus on professional wrestling in this show. And here are the matches. For the light heavyweight championship, it will be the champion, AJ Styles, going up against the number one contender and challenger, Petey Williams, for the light heavyweight championship. For the hardcore championship, Samoa Joe will challenge the champion, Finlay.
Because he loves to fight.
Hardcore, anything goes, anywhere you want. Four-way women's match to determine the new women's champion will be with the following participants: ODP, Gail Kim, Angelina Love, and Awesome Kong. For those of you who don't remember, the women's championship is now vacant due to a trade that was executed between Meathead and myself.
Which was?
Mickey for Vince McMahon.
Right.
Correct.
The tag team titles will be on the line when the Motor City Machine Guns take on the team of honor, Danielson and Strong. Brian Danielson and Roderick Strong. Great match, by the way. And the Intercontinental Championship will be defended by CM Punk, who will take on John Morrison for the Intercontinental title. Frank, this sounds like a great show, isn't it? We haven't even gotten to the main event, the top of the card, the top floor, if you will, and that is the champion, the World Heavyweight Champion, Christian Cage, going up against Y2J Chris Jericho. Voting will begin on that show this Sunday night after PWR on 540 ESPN.
Try not to take sides, but that is a solid card. But yours card was also good.
I know it was. I know it was.
It isn't. You don't.
I know
We
it
don't do
was.
pity or sympathy on this show.
That's why we just let you talk instead.
That's acceleration.
Pretty soon it's
For
going
those
to
of
be...
you who don't remember, WWE Raw comes to Chicago, Illinois at the Allstate Arena. That dump on August 18th, 2008.
Terribly dumb.
No, that building is a dump, Frank. It smells like an armpit.
No, the Humphrey
Nothing.
Dome.
The Humphrey Dome. Oh, that smelled like a sweaty taint.
WWE comes to Milwaukee's Bradley Center on September 9th for SmackDown. And tickets are available for that show as well. And Bound for Glory comes to Chicago, Illinois, weekend of October 12th and 13th. It's going to be at the Sears Center. Tickets are available for that as well. All are events that PW is participating in. You get your tickets now to be a part of the trilogy over 3 months of events coming to the region.
And again, what we're looking for, fan challenge, I personally want to see any type of Mickey James, Arby's roast beef references in the crowd.
Special thanks go out to Curryhead, Richard from Long Beach, California, Curryhead from Memphis, Tennessee, Juan from Birmingham, Alabama, and one of our favorites, obviously, Sam from across the pond in Ireland, for calling in to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN last Sunday night. We will be with you again this upcoming Sunday night after TNA Hard Justice.
I think the rest of them are failing. How are you guys not calling into the show? What's the excuse? How are you not calling into the show? You say, oh, what a great show. I love it. I listen to it every week. But you can't call in.
Stay up late with us right after
U.S.
Right after TNA Hard Justice this Sunday night, 10 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. You can listen to it live at pwrshow.com. And then the following Sunday, after SummerSlam, we'll be live again on 540 ESPN. You can listen to that at pwrshow.com. If you missed the show, join us on the website. You can download that or search on iTunes for PWR Live.
2 weeks in a row, nobody's been able to beat the meat.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report television version for this week. For the man they call Meathead and Frank Cosentino, this is Damian Nelson signing off saying thank you, and we'll see you again here on TV in 2 weeks.